I should have known something was wrong when Ellery started coming home from girls' night looking better than when she left. 3 years together, and I'd never seen her return from an evening out without smudged mascara or wine-stained lips. But these monthly gatherings with her friends, Sloane, Bryn, and Kira, were different. She'd come back at 2 a.m. with perfect makeup, designer perfume I'd never bought her, and stories that never quite added up. "How was tonight?" I'd ask. "Oh, you know, Sloane's having issues with Camden again. We mostly just listened and ate too much cheese at that new wine bar." Except when I looked up the wine bar she mentioned, it had been closed for renovations for 3 weeks. The first real red flag came in March. I was looking for gum in Ellery's purse when I found a receipt from Victoria's Secret. $200 worth of lingerie, purchased the day of her last girls' night. When I asked about it, she got defensive. "Can't a woman buy herself nice things without an interrogation, Garrett?" But it was the cologne that made me start paying real attention. I have a sensitive nose. Always have. When Ellery slipped into bed after her April girls' night, she smelled like someone else. Not just her usual perfume, but something masculine underneath. Something expensive and unfamiliar. "You smell different," I said. The Uber driver was wearing way too much cologne, made the whole car reek. Plausible. Almost believable. But the way she avoided my eyes while saying it made something twist in my stomach. That's when I decided to install the family tracking app. "For safety," I told her over breakfast. "With everything happening in the city lately." "Sure, whatever makes you feel better," she said without looking up from her phone. She agreed so easily because she thought she was smarter than me. But 3 weeks later, when she kissed me goodbye for another girls' night, I was ready. 30 minutes after she left, I opened the app. The little blue dot that represented my girlfriend wasn't at any restaurant or anyone's house. It was at the Grandview Hotel downtown. I stared at that dot for 10 minutes, watching it stay perfectly still in room 847. When Ellery came home at 2 a.m. with another elaborate story about consoling heartbroken friends, I smiled and nodded like nothing had changed. But everything had changed. Over the next 3 months, I documented everything. Every girl's night led to a different luxury hotel. Every story she told me was a lie. I started keeping screenshots, building a file of evidence I hoped I'd never need to use. July. Claimed they went to a new restaurant. Actually spent 4 hours at the Meridian Hotel. August. Said Bryn was having marriage problems. The tracker showed the Ritz-Carlton. September. Kira's birthday dinner. Actually, the Boutique Inn. Always hotels. Always the same 4-hour window. Always came home looking like she'd stepped off a magazine cover. I knew I needed help. And I suspected I wasn't the only husband being lied to. I started with Camden, Sloane's husband. We'd met at parties, seemed like a decent guy. I sent him a careful text. "Hey man, has Sloane mentioned these monthly girls' nights? Ellery comes home with stories about Sloane having problems. Just wanted to make sure everything's okay." His response came back within minutes. "What girls' nights? Sloane hasn't mentioned anything about regular meetups." It felt like ice water flooded my veins. "We met that weekend at a coffee shop." Camden looked exhausted. "Sloane's been acting strange," he said without preamble. "New clothes, expensive ones. Says they're from sales, but I never see receipts. She's been secretive about her phone, distant." When did this start? About 8 months ago. She started having these monthly book club meetings. Book club? That's what she calls it. Different locations every time, but I've never seen her read a book, Garrett. Ever. I showed him the screenshot from the Grandview Hotel. His face went white. "What is this?" Ellery's location during her last girls' night. She said they were consoling Sloane about your marriage problems. "Our marriage is fine," Camden said flatly. "Or it was until 8 months ago." We contacted the other husbands, Blake, married to Bryn, and River, married to Kira. Getting them together took time, but 2 weeks later, we were all sitting in the same booth, sharing the kind of conversation that changes everything. "Bryn's been different too," Blake admitted. "More confident, almost arrogant. She used to ask my opinion on everything. Now she acts like she's got some secret that makes her better than me." "Kira calls them pottery classes," River added. "Says she's learning to be more creative, but I've never seen a single piece of pottery. 4 women, 4 different cover stories, 4 husbands kept in the dark. I showed them Ellery's location history. Every hotel, every lie, every pattern. "We need proof," Blake said. His business background was showing, always thinking strategically. Real proof. Something undeniable. "I've been thinking about that," I said. "The tracking app shows me exactly where and when. If we coordinate, we can catch them in the act." Camden leaned forward. "What are you thinking?" "Next girls' night is in 2 weeks. I'm going to book a room at whatever hotel Ellery goes to. I'm going to get video evidence." "That's risky," River warned. "Not as risky as spending the rest of my life with someone who thinks I'm a fool." Blake was already pulling out his phone. "We create a group chat. When you get evidence, we coordinate the release. Their families, their jobs, everyone finds out simultaneously." "That seems harsh," River said. "Harsh?" Blake's voice was quiet. "They've been making fools of us for months, lying to our faces, probably laughing about us with whoever they're sleeping with." I thought about all the nights I'd held Ellery, planning our future, while she was betraying everything we'd built. "Blake's right," I said. "We do this once, and we do it right." 2 weeks later, I was sitting in room 851 at the Grandview Hotel, 4 doors down from where my girlfriend was about to destroy our relationship forever. I'd used my credit card points, the same ones Ellery always mocked me for collecting, to book the room. I had a small camera, professional quality, and a clear view of the hallway. At 9:30 p.m. I heard them coming. 4 female voices, loud and intoxicated. I cracked my door just enough to see down the hall. There they were, all 4 wives, dressed like they were going to nightclubs rather than casual girls' nights. But they weren't alone. 4 men emerged from the elevator, clearly heading toward the same room. Well-dressed, confident, the kind of guys who belonged in expensive hotels. The women greeted them with kisses that left no doubt about their intentions. "Finally," Sloane called out. "We thought you'd forgotten about us." "Never," one of the men replied. "We've been looking forward to this all month." They disappeared into room 847, but their voices carried. The door hadn't closed properly. There was about a 2-inch gap. I gave them 10 minutes, then crept down the hall with my camera. What I saw through that gap destroyed any hope this might be innocent. The room was set up like a private party, expensive alcohol, dim lighting, music. But this wasn't friends hanging out. Ellery was sitting on a stranger's lap, her arms around his neck, laughing at something he'd whispered. Sloane was dancing with another man, their bodies pressed together intimately. Bryn and Kira were similarly occupied. What really set my veins on fire wasn't just what they were doing. It was the words coming out of their mouths. "God, I love these nights," Ellery said, sipping champagne. "It's like being a completely different person." "Tell me about it," Sloane replied. "Sometimes I can barely stand going home to Camden. He's so boring compared to—" She gestured toward her companion. "At least Camden has a decent job," Bryn laughed. "Blake's been working the same position for years. No ambition." "River thinks he's so sophisticated," Kira added. "But look at him next to a real man." They spent 20 minutes systematically destroying their husbands. Every insecurity, every private moment we'd shared became material for their entertainment. Ellery was the worst. "Garrett actually wants to propose," she said, causing the room to erupt in laughter. My heart stopped. I'd been planning to propose, but I'd never told her. "What did you tell him?" Sloane asked. "Nothing yet, but can you imagine? Married to Garrett forever? He's sweet, but so predictable, so safe. The sex is boring, he has no imagination, and he thinks romance is grocery store flowers." "So why not just break up?" one of the men asked. "Because he's stable," Ellery replied matter-of-factly. "He pays half the rent, he's reliable, and he worships me. Why give up a good thing just because I need excitement on the side?" They toasted to having it all, and I watched my girlfriend of 3 years celebrate her systematic betrayal of everything we'd built. I'd heard enough. Back in my room, I edited the footage, adding timestamps and captions. I uploaded everything to cloud storage and set up automated emails for 9 a.m. The recipients list was extensive: Camden, Blake, and River, their wives, parents, and siblings, human resources departments at their workplaces. Everyone who mattered in their lives would receive the same video simultaneously. At 2:30 a.m., Ellery slipped into bed beside me, smelling like expensive cologne and lies. "Good night, baby," she whispered. "Good night," I replied. In 6.5 hours, her world would end. I woke up at 6 a.m., packed my essential belongings, and left for work early. At 8:55, I sat in my car outside our building, watching the clock. 9 a.m. The emails deployed like digital bombs across the city. My phone immediately started buzzing. Camden. "Holy shit, Sloan just called screaming." Blake. "Bryn's on her way home." She sounded panicked. River. "Kira's parents just called. This is happening." I drove to work and maintained complete normalcy while their lives imploded. Ellery called constantly. I let every call go to voicemail. By noon, the damage was comprehensive. Camden. Sloan showed up at my office crying. Security escorted her out. Blake. Bryn got fired. Her boss said the video violated their morality clause. River. Kira's trying to claim we deep-faked it. No one's buying it. I finally listened to one of Ellery's voicemails. "Marcus, please call me back. People are sending around some video. I need to explain. Those men drugged us or something. You have to believe me." Drugged. Of course, that would be her angle. But I had more footage. Hours of additional conversations where they'd discussed other affairs, financial deceptions, exit strategies. The best part was Ellery discussing what she'd do if caught. "If Garrett ever finds out, I'll claim I was having a mental health crisis. Maybe say I was assaulted as a child and acting out. Men always fall for trauma excuses." I sent this clip directly to her family and boss. Her father called her a stranger. Her sister blocked her everywhere. Her boss put her on administrative leave. By evening, Ellery had lost her family, job, friends, and home. The four women's circle had imploded as they turned on each other. I met the guys at a bar across town. We looked like any group unwinding after work. No one would guess we'd executed the most comprehensive social destruction any of us had witnessed. "How do you feel?" Camden asked. I considered the question. Free. For the first time in months, completely free. "No guilt?" Blake pressed. "None. They made their choices. We just ensured there were consequences." River raised his beer. "To consequences." "To truth," Camden added. "To freedom," Blake contributed. "To moving forward," I finished. My phone buzzed with a final message from Ellery. "I'm staying at Rachel's tonight. We need to talk tomorrow." But we didn't need to talk. There was nothing left to say. I'd spent 3 years loving someone who saw me as a convenient placeholder. 3 years of genuine commitment while she laughed about my inadequacies with strangers. The woman I'd fallen in love with had never existed. She'd been a performance, carefully crafted to keep me invested while she pursued what she really wanted elsewhere. Tomorrow, I'd start looking for a new apartment, somewhere with no memories of lies and betrayal. As I drove away from the bar, I felt something I hadn't experienced in months. Hope. Real hope for a future with someone who would see me as more than just stable backup. Ellery had taught me the difference between love and performance, between commitment and convenience. It was a brutal education, but an essential one. And now class was finally dismissed.